listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Gwilda Wiyaka's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the Science of Magic or endorsed in any manner by Gwilda Wiyaka, Relmar McConnell Media Company, its affiliated networks, stations, or employees. Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome to the Science of Magic, a place where science and magic come together to transform fact into evolving truth. We can be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring the power of you. Our relationship to power tends to be a nebulous thing, yet the way we move in the world is totally dependent upon our relationship to power. If we feel powerless, we often attempt to overpower others, whether covertly, as in manipulation, or overtly, as in bullying. If we're power-hungry, we tend to set aside right action in the pursuit of power. Those of us who have witnessed the misuse of power often put our own into denial where it operates behind the scenes and out of our conscious control. Power is not something one owns or lacks, but rather a frequency we all have the capacity to channel, or not. Power flows freely from the source and drives the entire universe and beyond. The ability to tap into power at the quantum level is magic at its purest form. Our ability to channel power is totally dependent upon our personal processing, clarity, beliefs about power, and our relationship to it. That is an inside job. But most of us have been led to believe power is a finite thing that can only be obtained from others. Our society is built upon gathering power in the form of money and material goods. In short, commerce. It's not to say that commerce is bad. It's a matter of how we approach it. If we have a commodity or service that someone needs, and I intend our exchange to be a win-win, I'm working within the laws of nature. just like the tree exhales the oxygen I need and I exhale the carbon dioxide it needs for life. If, however, I use false claims or manipulation to trick others into buying a product, even if they don't need it or it would be harmful to them, I'm creating a win-lose. This constitutes working against natural law. Eventually, the imbalance I'm creating will correct itself. This correction usually has a nasty backlash. Karma, if you will. There are two major ways to channel power into the physical plane: magic and sorcery. At any given time, we all employ one or the other, whether we know it or not. Both magic and sorcery are used to manage matter at the quantum level. It's our intent that discerns which one we're employing. I define sorcery as wielding power against natural law. Natural law is ever-changing, so there's no consistent right or wrong in the use of power, but rather what's appropriate to the moment and in alignment with the way life works. Thus, there's a very fine line between magic and sorcery. The practice of magic uses intention focused through incantations, rituals, or spells within natural law, while sorcery uses the same to break natural law. For example, I may decide I want a mate. I could direct power through spells or ritual to correct anything in me that was blocking my ability to attract the appropriate mate. Or I could use similar methods to influence a particular person to be attracted to me. In the first case, I'm directing power through the spell or ritual to override the circuitry or conditioning in my mind and heart that prevents me from drawing in and recognizing my mate. This is a form of self-mastery, practiced consciously and with permission, and therefore magic. In the second example, I'm using the same methods to impose my will on the mind and heart of another without permission. This imposition of power goes against natural law and is therefore sorcery. The key is, are we using power to master self or control other? The powerful may temporarily rule the world, but the meek shall inherit it. Our guest this hour is Sasha Graham, author of 365 Tarot spells, creating the magic in each and every day. After receiving her BA in Literature and Religion at Hunter College, Sasha began her work with Tarot. She joined the Tarot School and opened a private reading practice, quickly becoming a sought-after reader. Sasha is most proud of her Tarot outreach program developed for New York at-risk inner-city youth. She worked with young people transitioning out of the foster care system, using Tarot and symbol to nurture personal intuition. I will introduce Sasha and explore her take on Tarot, spells, magic, and power after this short break. You're listening to The Science of Magic. Prior innovative episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we will weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Star began to demonstrate a metaphysical connection to the spirit world as a little girl. Her family noticed the connection, but it was a great-grandmother who told the family that Linnea was indeed gifted. The great-grandmother, who was also gifted, felt that Linnea had indeed inherited these attributes. It has been noticed that oftentimes such things are passed down through the generations. Linnea was also born with a caul, a thin white membrane across a newborn's face. Legend has it that if the baby is born with this caul, the child will have second sight, or what we call psychic abilities. Linnea Star does past, present, and future, and has the gift of prophecy. It is written within scriptures that if you are able to give factual information, and prophecies indeed come true, the gift indeed comes from the divine realm. Linnea Star does large interactive groups as well as private gatherings. For more information on Linnea Star or to contact Linnea for a one-on-one consultation, visit her website at www.linneastar.com. That's www.linneastar.com.
Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is Sasha Graham, author of many books on Tarot, including her latest, 365 Tarot Spells, Creating the Magic in Each and Every Day. You can visit Sasha on her website, www.sashagraham.com. Sasha, thank you so much for joining us on the Science of Magic.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Gwilda.
I am real curious. You mentioned a Tarot school in your bio. What is it exactly?
Oh, the Tarot school. You know, it was so funny. I had been working with Tarot already, but I wanted, this is years ago, I wanted to open a private practice, and I thought, you know, I'm not going to feel sort of legitimate as a tarot reader unless I've had some sort of proper study, because up until that point I was entirely self-taught. So I thought, you know, I live in Manhattan, and I Googled, you know, is there a tarot school nearby? And lo and behold, the tarot school came right up. It's Wald and Ruth Amberstone, an amazing couple who have made tarot their life's work. And back then, they happened to be teaching Monday night classes literally 5 blocks from my apartment. So it was a weekly school, and they hold tarot conferences, and they do retreats. And it became a real home for me, you know, putting me in touch with an entire community of tarot readers that I didn't even, and tarot lovers that I didn't even know existed, because this was way before social media is what it is today. So it became my home and my kind of launching point in my tarot family, if you will, and they're still around. They're amazing.
You know, it's amazing to be able to find people that are kindred spirits, particularly, you know, like you say, before it was so much more mainstreamed. You know, there are a lot of divinational tools out there. Why'd you choose tarot?
Well, you know, it always felt, I'm a Halloween baby, so it always felt as if reading tarot cards was something that I should have been innately able to do. And when I purchased my first deck when I was about 12 years old, and I opened it up, excited to start reading them, I was kind of godsmacked by the fact that I didn't understand what they were. I thought, of course I could read tarot, and then it turned out, I had no idea how to read them. So that actually became part of the basis of the first books when I started to write. I wanted to make the transition from someone who was passionately fascinated by the cards to ease that transition, because it's not such a tough thing to do. It's a beautiful, fun thing. So I wanted to help anybody overcome their fear that they couldn't read the cards, because of course anyone can. The tarot was my logical go-to for whatever reason.
Do you think you have past life connection with it?
I think that we all have connections to tarot in a million different ways, because it's a visual medium, So the symbols that arise in the tarot decks are symbols that we've seen time and time again throughout history. And a trip to Europe, right, unveils kind of like the Wheel of Fortune at every turn when you're wandering around Florence. These are very, very common symbols. So, yeah, I think not just myself, but for anyone, I think it's very, very grounded in the mechanics of the human psyche. So, yes.
How do you see tarot as a bridge to intuition? Is it through this symbology?
Yeah, well, tarot, the magic of it, in my opinion, is that it brings us out of our head. And, when we put tarot cards in front of us on a table, there's maybe a 2-foot distance between us and the card, but I think that makes all the difference in the world. Working with your intuition is an ever-evolving process that sometimes can get very complicated, I think, in the way that we confuse ourselves in our minds, when something's in our head and we start to kind of go crazy with a certain thought or something. It's always great when you can talk it out with a friend, when you can articulate your questions or your concern. And I think that tarot gives anyone that opportunity, because you can articulate any question, concern, and draw a card, and suddenly the attention moves, a foot or two away from you and onto the card, and it gives you a way in which to interpret. And that's, I think, its tremendous power when it comes to intuitive work. I think it's essential and so helpful.
So, in other words, you're taking it out of going round and round in circles in your mind, the question, and getting a different perspective simply by doing a layout. Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. And it's the same reason that, when people ask about psychic or intuitive work, I always say, it's really important to keep a journal. It's really important to write it down. Like, if you're interested in nurturing your psychic side, when you get a psychic hit, when you get something that's true, you have to confirm it. And for some reason, I don't think it's enough for us to just sort of confirm it in our heads. When we put it in front of us, when we put it down on paper in a journal, or when we're able to have that dialogue with ourselves with the cards, it makes it much more concrete. It's something we can go back and revisit in the future, when we want to re-look at it. And it takes us out of our own heads, because that's where we tend to get the most tripped up, which is why it's almost as if tarot is kind of a form of visual journaling, if you will, in the same way that writing down a problem may help you find a solution for it. Working with tarot images, I think, does exactly the same thing, and it gives you a new perspective.
I really like that. And I'll bet it's an ever-evolving answer, in that I know when I'm working with different scriptures or different things that I might have a question or something that's on my mind, and I read something out of the Tao or the Bible, and it means something to me that day that really registers with what I was wondering. But if I've journaled it down and go back to it, the meaning will deepen. Does tarot work that way as well?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And the thing, part of the work that I love to do with tarot is to help people understand, number one, like a piece of prose from a book from the Bible or from wherever, like a great truth, it is the images, the tarot is an ever-evolving thing. It's not just pictures on a paper, the same way a verse from the Bible are not just letters on a paper. It has its own life, if you will. It has its own kind of energy. And the more time and attention that you spend working with that, it will deepen, like any relationship in our life. So to me, one of my big goals is to move past that sort of linear visual, tarot's a flat card. No. Actually, it's full of meaning, and it's incredibly experiential. And like anything else, the more you work with it, the deeper and richer and more meaning you'll find in it.
I love that. So your relationship with the deck itself starts to evolve, and then the meaning gets deeper. You know, I'm really interested in your Tarot outreach program with the inner city youth. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would be happy to. You know, it was funny. They approached me. This wasn't something that I had conceived of on my own. And what it is there's a place in Manhattan that acts as sort of a bridge for at-risk inner city foster children who are preparing to transition into adult life. So it's like a dorm where they're living and they're given classes on this is how you budget money. This is how you interview for a job. You know, these are the adult life skills that are going to help you. And they invited me in, and I thought, wow, how incredible that they would bring a tarot reader in. And I think at first they were thinking it would be sort of a fun fortune-telling night. But I said, no, you guys, like working with tarot is the most empowering thing I think that one can ever do, because it teaches you to cultivate your intuition, and it teaches you to trust yourself. And I think when you're looking at children or young adults who are coming out of the foster care system, trust in themselves and in others is probably the most damaged component of their psychology. So it felt to me incredibly empowering to say, no. You don't have to go to a fortune teller. You can take your future in your own hands, and you can cultivate your intuition, and you can really create anything you want out of your life. So they were so responsive, and they've had me back a bunch of times, and it's so much fun, and I love teaching kids because, of course, kids are so open and they're less afraid to get something wrong, and their energy is absolutely delicious. So I adore doing that. It's a very special thing that I am honored that I was allowed to put out there.
You said something in there that really intrigues me. It's when you said take their life into their hands or whatever. Do you see tarot as a way to not say what's going to happen to me, but rather say what are the energies out there and where do I choose to dance with them?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, talk about taking your life into your own hands. Like in any way in which all of us we all have a deficit, right, somewhere in our life. When I was younger, working with the cards, working with especially the major arcana, gave me that majors really kind of gave me the what I wanted to look up to. You know, when I was considering my personal creativity, the Empress sort of stood out as a shining example. Maybe there wasn't an Empress creative person in my life, but she was there in the cards, and I could understand exactly what that meant to me. And so because everything is reflected in the tarot deck, and because the archetypes are sort of that cookie cutter, the highest possible ideal of justice, of work, of creativity, of intuition, of domination, of intellectuality, right, of all of these different pieces, then they're at your fingertips to work with, and they can guide you. You know, you can let that, you could pull a card on purpose every day, depending on where you are, and say, what do I need? What is it that I need to activate today? I want to activate feminine nurturing maybe today because I need to take care of my daughter in the best way. And the Queen of Cups will help you do that for anything. So yeah, I think tarot really helps you take your life into your own hands, because really when you're working with the cards, you're really working with yourself.
I love that. We're going to have to take a short break, Sasha. We'll return to our discussion after this break. You're listening to The Science of Magic. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. You want to hear more? Previous broadcasts of innovative episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Thomas Jefferson was a Burgess of 27 when he met Martha Wales Skelton, a 22-year-old widowed heiress who was fondly called Patty by her family. They were married on January the 1st, 1772, and they took up residence in a cabin on the building site on top of a Virginia mountain that Thomas had named Monticello. As Thomas and Patty slowly built their first version of the great house at Monticello, the Revolutionary War was heating up. Patty, with difficulty, bore 5 children, but only 2 girls survived. Thomas's political career developed to the point where he was often away from home, but after he authored and signed the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia, he resolved never again to leave his wife. He was elected the governor of Virginia, just as that state became the Revolution's last battleground. The Revolutionary War ended in 1781, and Thomas gladly retired altogether to my family, my farm, and my books. But Patty continued to want to bear her treasured husband a son, and late in the summer of 1782, she died of kidney failure at the age of 33, 4 months after having borne yet another girl. Thomas was so devastated by her death that he never remarried. He mourned her for the rest of his life, even as he helped to frame the peace in France and then became the first Secretary of State, the second Vice President, and the third President of the United States. This story is true. Thomas Jefferson was such an obsessive letter writer and record keeper that we know where he was and what he was doing nearly every day of his adult life. Every significant thing he says in My Thomas comes from his contemporary writings. My Thomas by Roberta Grimes is now available at Barnes & Noble, Costco, Target, Books A Million, Hudson Booksellers, Kmart, Walmart, Sam's Club, Walgreens, CVS, and online at Amazon.com. You can visit Roberta Grimes online at www.robertagrimes.com.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State-certified occupational school, training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
Unwilling to be the government's deadly assassin, gifted psychic Kahara Mitchell went AWOL and ended up buried under rubble in the wake of a great tsunami. She regained consciousness far from Earth on the medical ship of a Daguerrean intergalactic fleet. Has she been rescued or abducted by aliens? The Chalice of Carrie, Kahira O'Donnell's latest paranormal science fiction romance, is the passionate story of an Earth woman and her destined mates, twin kings from another galaxy. Kahara uses her gifts fighting alongside Lords Rom and Ra in a war that will determine the destiny of galaxies. The Chalice of Carrie by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at KahiraO'Donnell.com or at Amazon.com. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. What happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Annie Callahan, dedicated to negotiating a position for Earth within the Daguerrean Coalition, had trained for 3 years to become an Earth ambassador. Yet, the very eve of her arrival at the capital ruling planet, she is claimed as destined mate to an oversized, mating-maddened vamp who swears he will never release her. Lord Aztaran, king of the Macian sector, has waited over 900 years for his destined mate. Having found her as an alpha vamp, he is unable to relinquish Annie, virtually holding her hostage until he can claim her. Yet Macians cannot survive without their mate's love. How could he strip her of her citizenship, her ambassadorship, and her freedom and expect to win her heart? With All That I Am by Kahira O'Donnell is the latest book in this exciting series, The Daguerrean Chronicles, guaranteed to keep readers coming back for more. With All That I Am by Kahira O'Donnell is available on Amazon.com and KahiraO'Donnell.com.
Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. Visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is Sasha Graham, author of many books on tarot, including her latest 365 tarot spells, creating the magic in each day. You can visit Sasha on her website, www.sashagraham.com. Welcome back, Sasha. You said something that just really intrigued me. Now, you have to realize that I'm unencumbered by any knowledge of tarot. So, with that stated, what's a major arcana?
Okay, well, the major arcana is essentially what differentiates a tarot deck from a regular deck of playing cards. And if you recall, any deck of tarot cards has 4 suits. Well, the major arcana is a 5th suit, and what it's comprised of are archetypes. What's an archetype? An archetype is kind of the original mode, the cookie cutter of, say, if I say the Lovers, or if most people, if they look at the Lovers tarot card, they kind of recognize what the Lovers means. It's a universally accepted representation of something. If you look at the Empress, who I spoke about before, she carries the mother archetype. The Emperor is the father archetype. The Hierophant is the Pope or spiritual teacher archetype. So archetypes are those things that exist within the collective consciousness that pretty much cross-culturally people understand. The archetypes and the trumps also sprang from medieval Europe. So, tarot existed prior to the Gutenberg press. So before the Gutenberg printing press made literature widely available, most people were not necessarily literate, and so the church and governments would communicate via pictures. A lot of the images in the trumps are found in Europe, and they were used. So these are really familiar, really ingrained within our psyche images, and they've made their way into the tarot cards. And so when people talk about the power of tarot existing symbolically, it's inside of these images. And the majors are usually for a beginning tarot reader where people might want to start reading. This way you can read with only 22 cards rather than 78 cards, and it's a little bit less confusing that way.
Yeah, that would, 78 would certainly confuse me at this point. Your book is about casting spells. Would you mind defining a spell?
Absolutely. A spell, in the way that I define a tarot spell, a spell is when the practitioner invokes sacred space. And inside of that sacred space, which is different from the normal profane space of our everyday lives, an intention is made, a request is made, you open yourself up energetically, and you kind of put your call out to the universe as to what you would like to invoke and manifest into your life. And so I've written the book so that no matter how comfortable a person is doing a spell, I think there's very simple ways, there's magical metaphors that act kind of like a spell. You can do it in a very easy, simple way by just sort of dedicating the space. Or someone who is proficient and loves working a more complicated magical practice is free to do that as well. But it's really about sort of your call and response to the universe, I like to call it. It's saying this is what I'd like to have happen, and this is what I intend. And you put it out there through the card, and then you wrap it up and hopefully kind of forget that you ever did it and see what happens.
So where do you stand on permission? You know where I stand on it from the introduction. When you're working with spells, are you mindful about working as an inside job, or do you work with spells to influence others?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because as I was listening to what you were saying at the top of the broadcast, it resonated so deeply with me, obviously, and it's a funny thing. I know this, right, because I'm the magical practitioner that's been working with this for so long. Obviously, you would never want to manipulate someone else. The magical practice is all about the practitioner. You articulated it so beautifully. I wish I could have a transcript of it and I could put it like right in the front of my website. And I thought it was interesting how you described sorcery versus magic. One should never, ever attempt to bend the will of another person. That could always backfire. I mean, whether you're being manipulative in your regular life or whether you're doing it for magic, it's just not a good idea. The point of magic, as you eloquently put it, is that it's about opening up that possibility in yourself and removing any block that you may have to to accepting something that ultimately would be for your highest good. And this is the interesting thing about spell casting, right? Because we don't always know what's best for us. And that's why, it's this interesting conundrum. The first time I sat down to do a spell, I thought I was doing it to invoke probably money or something like that. But what really blew me away was the space that I had created. So oftentimes the end result of a spell isn't even as magnificent as the space that you create when you're ingrained in the magical practice. And because we don't always know what's best for ourselves, I think that it's always good to be open to the unexpected, because when you don't have it all planned out, that's when the universe rewards you in beautifully unexpected ways.
I'm so glad you said that, because it's so true. If we can set our intent as to what we want, but be very open about how it comes to us, and then watch our promptings and watch the universe move around us, it's just so rich to see what unfolds. And I also love what you said about setting space. You've mentioned that twice now. And one of the things that I really see with magical practices is the necessity to create a toroidal field around the process so that you aren't opening gateways that bleed through into ordinary reality that really don't belong there. Can you speak to this a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about the creation of sacred space, I am fascinated with the concept, and I love to watch the interplay. And again, it's a really, your call and response to the universe, right? I think the way that each person goes about doing it, I always say everyone has their own unique magical fingerprint. Each one of us works differently when you open space, when I open space, and you and I might do that in two completely different ways. We might experience it in a completely different way. The way you might like cilantro and I might just think it's disgusting, right? We're all built so much differently. So when we are intentionally altering, opening, transforming the space around us, I think it's the most fascinating, unexpected, personal thing. I think it's so incredibly intimate. And then I'm kind of fascinated by finding space outside of myself. I mean, I think that sacred space is found in nature, in threshold places, right, where fields meet forest, where the sand meets the ocean. These boundaries between the known and the unknown, the boundary between what we have in our head and what we speak through our mouth. I find this fascinating, and you can play with that whenever you kind of feel like it, when you're working with tarot and when you're working with sacred space. So to me, it just feels like a creative playground that is the kind of thing that you can keep on exploring, and that it's the right of every person to do so, whether or not you send out an intention, and again, that, like, a lot of people think of magic as about, what are you going to get for yourself? That's really not the point. What it does, ultimately, I think the greatest thing is that it opens up new possibilities, and that's the greatest magic.
New possibilities are the magic, aren't they? I love what you said about the betwixt and between the elements, between shadow and light, between the shore and the ocean. That's very, very Celtic. Do you have Celtic background?
I do. I am Irish. I do have Irish blood.
I thought there might be a little bit of that in there, lassie.
Oh, but it's wonderful, isn't it? I mean, it's why nature is so magical. It's all right there. It's all in front of us. We just have to let it in.
Oh, so beautifully put. Just let it in. And nature does hold the ultimate balance and the ultimate power, doesn't it? Because if you work with it, you're supported by the power of the universe. And if you work against it, we know who's going to lose in that equation. It's time for us to take another break. We'll be back on the flip side of this short break to entertain more of Sasha and Tarot and magic. You're listening to The Science of Magic, the place where altruistic professionals of science and the esoteric create common ground for the betterment of our world. You can always listen to previous broadcasts on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net.
children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. If you enjoy reading a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love From Out of the Woodwork by William S. Peckham. Sean Kennedy, a Toronto contractor, buys derelict houses, guts them, and turns them into multi-family dwellings. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, a century house in ruins, and starts the renovation, the house fights back. He is visited by ghosts of owners past. His visions are triggered by touching an oak mantle, reading a faded letter, opening an old locket, or opening a brand new casket in the basement. These visions will take you on a trip across southern Ontario from Niagara Falls to Toronto to Kingston. From Out of the Woodwork is now available in paperback and on your favorite electronic reader. To order your copy of From Out of the Woodwork, go to www.williamspeckham.com. That's www.williamspeckham.com.
Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, bringing together gifted people of service to our world. Our website is www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is Sasha Graham, author of many books on Tarot, including her latest, 365 Tarot Spells, Creating Magic in Each Day. Her website, www.sashagraham.com. So, Sasha, tell me a little bit about your book. How do you have it set up for a spell a day, so to speak?
Well, I took the format actually from a book I had written prior, which was called 365 Tarot Spreads, and it uses the same format. The idea, of course, just simply is that I wanted something to be available for people who really wanted to play with their cards, but were sort of like, oh, I don't have a question today, or I don't necessarily know what to do today. So I thought, how could I format this in a clever way for each and every day of the year? And I figured, and I was correct in my figuring, that there was enough esoteric information, occurrences, birthdays, historical facts, so that every single day a spell is informed by a historical fact, by an esoteric character's birthday, from a historical happening, so that every spell is informed by something that happened on that day in history. And then using that to inform the spell was then created around that.
So again, you're hooking into natural flow because we have the natural flow of the universe, we have the natural flow of the 365 days a year, we have the natural flow of the combined psyche of people where your symbology comes through, and so it's another way of hooking in with nature, isn't it?
It is. And so what happens is, for instance, I just opened it up and I looked at I have a spell from Mexican love truffles, which are connected to May 5th, which just happened, Cinco de Mayo. So not only are you connecting with all of the elements of the spell, you're also connecting to the energy of that particular day, right? So it's another tool with which to sort of, plug that energetic connection in.
So you see Tarot as connected with magic, is that correct? And if so, would you define magic for us?
Oh, magic. That's a fabulous question. How would I define magic? I think that magic is the field of possibility which exists to us 24 hours a day. I think each and every person is completely filled by it. I think that magic is all of those things in which our consciousness and our humanity doesn't yet understand. I think magic is the energy what makes all life possible. I think the magic that exists inside of you and of me and our listeners is the same magic that makes a pansy, that makes a weeping willow tree look like a weeping willow tree. It is the energy that connects and creates all of us. It's the space with which we navigate our lives. So when I talk about casting magic or playing magic, like you said at the top of the broadcast, a lot of people do it without even recognizing, maybe that they're working proper magic or spells. So magic is the way to connect with the energy of life, the ultimate life force.
So to manage matter at the quantum level, in short.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Yes. Is there a science behind Tarot?
Well, there's definitely a structure behind Tarot. Now, it's a really funny thing because the structure, the esoteric structure, comes from the men. Now, we all know, and this is not an affront to men, but men have a tendency to organize and to structure things. So I think that the structure behind Tarot, the esoteric structure, lays in the male esotericists who are working with the cards and wanted to explain it. I think that magic is kind of very readily available to the female. I think that it's something that doesn't need to be explained and worked at so hardly. So I think that magic can be as easy as breathing. I don't think that we need to overcomplicate it. So the magical systems behind tarot, some of them are very structured, but a lot of it just exists in our psyche's ability to recognize symbols and what they mean. And then there's the magic of numbers also. I mean, the tarot is a cohesive unit. It does have a skeletal-like structure. So if you're someone who likes to work with the magic of numbers, then it's a great tool for that. But the beauty of tarot is that it meets every practitioner at whatever their level is.
Yeah, I love that. Where you've got sacred geometry in there, you've got sacred symbols, you've got numbers. It's pretty fascinating. And I also love what you said about the masculine and feminine approach, because it sounds to me like tarot has both of those. And I know that while I can be very fluid in magic, if I really want to bring balance to what I'm trying to do in the world, having that masculine counterbalance is absolutely paramount, whether I provide it myself or I work with someone else that's carrying the masculine form this time. Have you seen tarot misused, and what are the pitfalls of doing so?
I think tarot is only misused in the way anyone with presumed power misuses their power. So when I'm talking about someone misusing their power, I think that tarot is misused when you have teacher gurus who claim to know more information than their students do and kind of wield it in that icky way. Well, then the esoteric title of the Hierophant is the Lord of Proposed Sight and blah, 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 and you really don't. That, I think, is the misuse of tarot. And I do think that tarot is misused sometimes in a fortune-telling sense when you have a fortune teller who is looking to hook clients into giving them money to work spells. And again, that's using the power. I am the tarot reader with the knowledge over your future, and if you pay me $300 a week, I will remove the evil spirits from you. everybody has the power within themselves to create whatever imbalance there is in their life. And anyone can learn the cards. So anybody who uses tarot as a way of wielding power over someone else in any way, shape, or form, intellectual or financial, then I think that's when tarot is misused.
Beautifully, beautifully put. Hey, where can people find your book, Sasha?
Oh, all my books are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. A friend of mine just shot me a photo from it on the bookshelves, I think at Books A Million. So my books are really available nationwide. If you have any listeners in Poland, they've been all translated into Polish and are all available over there. But they're really easy. They're really easy to find. If you Google Sasha Tarot Diva, it'll all come up pretty quickly.
Perfect. And how can we be empowered by tarot rather than turning our power over to it?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to work with the cards, and you have to ask really great questions that really great power questions. Hey, tarot, what do I need to know today? Flip a single card. If you flip one card every day and ask a fabulous question, well, what's really the magic there? It's the question that you're asking, because when you ask a good question, your mind is going to immediately move to a good answer. You're going to kind of trick yourself into finding the answer that you need. So you just have to ask empowering questions with the cards. And that could be with an angel card or an oracle card, too. It doesn't have to be tarot. The key is an empowering question that recognizes the power that you have in your life, and then stating it and then waiting for that answer. 3 minutes a day, it could transform everything. I promise you. I know this to be true.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Being able to be in sacred space, set your intent for the day, you have to do that in order to ask a powerful question. Is you have to be conscious of where you are, what you're intending, and if you set each and every day with that intention, it changes your entire life.
It really does. It really does. It's magic. But it is.
I couldn't agree more. Hey, Sasha, this has been just wonderful. I can't thank you enough for being with us on the program. And time has absolutely flown. We'll be having to close out for this time around. It's been The Science of Magic. Remember, you can always listen to past thought-provoking episodes on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. Our guest has been Sasha Graham. Her website is www.sashagraham.com. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge, comforted with love, and on your personal path to empowerment.
One people, one nation, searching for the light. One people, one nation, coming from the stars. One people, one nation, to heal this earth of ours. Our gracious mother.